If you're a small business owner and your calendar is rammed with admin and reactivity tasks, and you're telling yourself that you've just got to make that one more hire so that you can have freedom, you're not on the edge of freedom. You're stepping into a trap. Now, here's the pattern that us small business owners get stuck in. We get sucked into all the day-to-day of a business. We get stuck in firefighting mode and we tell ourselves, right, I need to hire somebody to free me up from these tasks so that I can get back to focusing on what matters. And what happens is it consumes you even more to find this person, to train this person, and to get this person up to scratch. And then you end up realizing that the person isn't performing very well anyway. And then what happens if this goes on long term is you actually start to really screw your business, because you're hiring all these people, they're not getting the results that we need them to get, and the business starts to suffer more and more and more. And this is why so many small and medium businesses end up kind of stagnant or moving backwards, and why so many small and medium business owners feel constantly stressed. So what's the answer? What's the solution? Do we just stop hiring people? Of course not. If you want a business that can scale beyond you and eventually sell, you've got to have a team in there. You've got to have good people within the business. So it's not that hiring people is optional, but it's that we've got to go about it in the right way. Now, the trap that most small and medium business owners fall into, and that I fell into with my first business, is twofold. First of all, we're not putting the structure in our business that leads to a growth mindset and a proactive mindset. We've got a structure, or a lack of structure, in our business that's creating an environment of reactivity and firefighting. So we can't put people in that environment to thrive, right? So we're going to talk about that in this video. The second one is the way that we're hiring people. Instead of hiring a growth-driven, outcome-based team, we're hiring a bunch of people in a way that we're making them reliant on us. And that's an issue too, because the whole point in hiring these people is to make our lives easier and our businesses better. So we've got to change the way we think about and hire people. We've got to change the way we think about and create our jobs. And we've also got to change the way that we think about and structure the environment of the business. Now, that might sound complicated, but it's actually not. It's relatively simple. I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to do that at the end of this video. But the key thing to understand this is that every hire you make without the right structure doesn't add more capacity, it just adds more complexity. So if we want to start meaningfully moving the needle on this and changing this scenario in our business, we've got to do 2 things, right? And the first thing we've got to do is we've got to think about our business differently. And when we change the way we think, we change the way we act. And then the second one is we've got to get over this belief that's widespread in the UK through media that it's hard to motivate employees. It's hard to motivate people today. Both of these things need to change. So the first one is we've got to not think about problem solving our way to success. That's not how a business works. So if we are getting stuck into this trap of getting pulled into the day-to-day, getting pulled into the reactivity, and we get stuck in this mindset of I've got all these problems to solve, and once I've solved all these problems, then I can focus on growing the business. You're never going to escape that trap, because problems are never ending. It's the nature of business. So this is a mental kind of mindset piece that we need to embrace as owners. We have to carve out time on a daily and weekly basis to create vision, to get clear on goals, to get clear on the outcomes. And if we don't do that, we're just stuck in firefighting mode. And if we're stuck in firefighting mode, the business will never improve. And this is very pertinent to hiring people, because if you're just hiring people from a place of stress to try and solve a problem, i.e. I'm too busy, you're not going to create clarity in that role. You're not going to get clear on what the outcomes are. You're not going to create a structure for this person to know if they're doing a good job or not, and for you to check in on them. And you're going to end up with a person that isn't doing what you need them to do, because they're not clear on what you need them to do, and they're not being held to account, which means that they're going to be stressed. You're going to be stressed. You're not going to get results from them. It's going to cost the business, and it's going to cost you mentally. So we've got to change the way that we're thinking about our business, especially the way that we're thinking about problems. And a really useful analogy to help you kind of put this into context is like the sinking ship analogy, right? So imagine that your business is a ship and it's starting to sink because it's got structural issues and holes. And if we just stay in a state of firefighting, we're going to say to ourselves, I need more crew on this ship so that we can scoop the water off the deck. And we just keep trying to throw capacity at this, whereas the actual issue is we need to fix the structure of the boat. We need to start patching up the holes. But if you don't make time for that, no matter how many people you keep throwing at the sinking issue, even though they might put it off, the boat's never going to get better. The business is never going to improve. And this is the state most small and medium businesses get stuck in. They get stuck in this perpetual state of survival and stress. And if you feel like your months and your years are a kind of cycle of we're busy, we're doing stuff, we're reacting, we're working hard, but we're not really getting anywhere, that's the state you're stuck in. And I don't want you to feel bad about that, because the reality is most of us go through that process. The worst thing about that process is that you can stay there for a long time. You can, if you throw enough people at the sinking ship, keep the ship afloat. But it's not enjoyable. It's not rewarding. It's not leading to a good place. And it's not good for you, the owner, and it's not good for the team. Like, nobody enjoys that, just getting the ship off the deck, getting the water off the deck every day. So we have to stop telling ourselves that once we fix all the problems, it's going to be okay. We have to tell ourselves that the problems are only going to disappear if I start to give myself permission to step back, think strategically, and plan. And then the second belief that we have to kind of overcome in our minds is this notion that it's hard to motivate employees. It goes against everything we know about human psychology and human emotion. Humans are hardwired to want to contribute. And there's a great model called Maslow's hierarchy of needs that can outline this to you. But at a very base level of our psychological needs, we need to survive, right? So we want to get paid, we want to have security. But as soon as we've got that, we then start craving different things. And we want to feel like we belong, we want to feel confident about ourselves, we want to contribute, we want to make a difference. So if you're telling yourself this story that it's hard to motivate employees, and the only way I can motivate them is if I'm paying them loads of money, and I'm in an industry where we can't pay significantly high wages, so they're never going to be motivated. You're going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to create an environment that isn't motivational, that isn't engaging. You can have highly motivated employees in the lowest paid of industries. Now, obviously, it's nice when we can pay people more. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that we shouldn't think about what we're paying people and incentivize them to perform, and that when we do pay them more, that has a positive impact. I'm not suggesting that's not a thing. But what I am telling you is that if you're in an industry where you can't pay people loads of money, you can still have very motivated employees, because there's so many more levers that we can use to tap into human psychology and create a win-win environment. And most businesses just aren't doing this. And my final point on this is that if you think I'm talking nonsense and people are only motivated by money, how is it that we've got a police force? How is it that we've got soldiers? How is it that we've got an NHS? How is it that we've got school teachers? None of those are particularly high-paid industries, yet there's no shortage of staff going into them. There might be high turnover because of the way they're structured, but we certainly don't have a shortage of people going into those roles. And that's because humans aren't just motivated by money. They're motivated by purpose, making a difference, and meaning. So when we make these changes and when we start thinking about our business in a different way, setting up the culture of the business and setting up the roles that for the people that we hire in a different way, some magical things happen. And some of those things are that not only do your team come on board proactively and do the job that we need them to do, get the result that we need them to get, they actually enjoy the process. People actually start to find work that we're giving them meaningful, not stressful and reactive. So we start getting better results from our people, and they start enjoying it more without requiring your constant input or oversight. That has a massive knock-on effect to our mental health as business owners, because it frees us up to focus on what we want to focus on. It has a massive impact on the performance of our business, because we do have to think about people as resources, and we are spending money on those resources. And if they're getting results for the money that we're spending on them, they are an asset to the business. We put money into them, and they generate outcomes in the business equal to or more than the money that we're putting in. If we're not clear with them, when we're not giving them outcomes and we're not structuring them, setting them up in the right way, they become a liability to the business. And it's probably not their fault either, but they end up costing us more than what they're making us, which, like I've said, over time, if we keep doing this, we get stuck in the cycle of more people, leads to the business being very unhealthy. So when we start to make these changes, it has this big impact on us as business owners, and it has this big positive impact on the business. So there's no reason not to do this. And the only reason that more businesses don't do this is because everybody's stuck in old ways of thinking. Nobody's thinking about their businesses and their employees in the right way. And I'll give you a very short overview on why this is, because you might be questioning it and you might be thinking that I'm being an idealist. This is the truth. This is the reality. This is the outcome that we create with our clients. And the reason that so many people are stuck in it, and why everybody isn't just doing this, is all to do with the fact that the systems that we utilize in business today are based on and were built during the Industrial Revolution era. And during that era, the ballpark was in the employer's court, right? We had mass unemployment and we had mass poverty, and jobs were relatively factory-based, so relatively repetitive and low skill to complete. So what that meant was, for employers, was that our management systems and our people systems and our employment systems, all we had to do was hire people, give them a minimum wage, and give them clear instructions of what we need them to do, tasks. And it worked. You'd never have a shortage of employees. You'd never struggle to get results. Today, it's very different. In 2020, the BBC reported that for the first time since records began, there were more job vacancies in the UK than unemployed people. Less and less people live in poverty. We certainly don't have mass poverty in the UK, so people aren't going to work out of a state of desperation to put food on the table, more and more people are going to work because they want to. And the work that we require of people is very different today to it was generally than it was in the Industrial Revolution. We need people to be creative. We need people to be engaged. We're a much more service-based economy. We need people to care and provide a good service to our clients. And you can't do those things by just paying people a wage and giving them tasks. You have to get people engaged. You have to clearly communicate to people what we need from them. We have to set people up for success. So we have to think about things in a different way. So what 3 things do we need in place to enable this shift to happen? We need clarity, focus, and accountability. 3 things that most small businesses don't have. Okay. And they're very easy to implement. So the first one is clarity. Why are we here? What's this business trying to achieve? And again, if we go back to the ship analogy, that's you painting a clear direction as the owner. We are this person, we provide this service to this client. We are the number one choice because of this. This is our vision. This is our mission, right? So we want to create this clarity for our teams so they know what we're about and what we're trying to achieve. And then what we can do is we can put the roles that we create for people into the context of that vision so they understand the meaning behind it. So that's really important. Otherwise, it just feels like a job. The second one is focus. And what we mean by focus is having a system in place to turn the goals into something that's very specific and measurable. And if we don't do this, people feel overwhelmed. They're not sure if they're doing a good job. You're not sure if they're doing a good job. We've got no way to measure how well they're doing and help them if they're not doing well enough. So we have to have a system in place to turn big picture goals into something specific and measurable. And then the final one is the one that virtually no small businesses have in place at the start, and that is an accountability system. You need an accountability system for yourself and for your team to force you to keep making yourself uncomfortable and pushing towards growth. If you do not have an accountability system because you think you're being nice and you think that you're just trusting in your team, you're letting them down, you're letting yourself down, and you're letting the business down. And it will actually lead to your team being more stressed because they don't know if they're doing a good job. Without having accountability systems, what happens is us humans, we gravitate away from discomfort and towards comfort. We gravitate away from trying to do the new thing or implement the new service or improve the results. And we gravitate towards just doing what we know and dealing with the reactive stuff. And in the short term, that makes us feel more comfortable because we're not trying to do the new thing that brings with it the risk of failure. But in the medium to long term, it has a massive negative impact on our self-confidence and our self-worth because we know we're not making progress towards our meaningful goals. So you have to have an accountability system in place in your business. And when you get that in place, when you have those 3 things in place, you have clarity, you have focus, and you have accountability, you have a growth mindset culture where people know what their job is, they know why their job is, and they know that they're going to be checked and how to account so that they actually constantly improve. That creates the win-win in your business. And if you're trying to just hire people and throw them at problems without having those 3 things in place, all you're going to do is create more stress for yourself, cost your business more money, and create more stress for those people that you're providing work to. So if you're stuck in the hire, hope, disappoint cycle and you've watched this video and you're nodding your head and you're saying, yeah, I know I need to change this, there's a couple of things that I've got that can help you. So in the description to this video, I've got a link to a podcast episode on something called Outcome Sheets, which has got some AI prompts that show you how to structure your roles in the context of outcomes as opposed to tasks, which is the mistake that most business owners make. So there's a guide there, a talk through of it, and the AI prompts. The other thing that you can do if you just know, no, Mike, I want you to help us with this, or I want you to help us with this, you can go down to the Fractional Integrators link, which is again in the description. You can watch the video there and you can book a complimentary call with me and we can have a clarity call where we'll help you get clear on what you need to do to move forward. If you choose to work with us from that, fantastic. If not, you're still going to have really good clarity on how you need to move forwards with this. Remember that your business should work for you. And the only way that you're going to make your business work for you in the medium to long term is by shifting away from you being good at stuff and shifting towards you being good at getting other people to do stuff. If that's a barrier for you and you know that you haven't got the structure in place to do that right now and you're not sure that you've got the confidence or the insights on how to do that, you've got to overcome that barrier. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in this perpetual cycle. And we can help you do that. So do check out those resources. Feel free to contact me and make sure you tune in to the next video. I'll share a couple of our other videos around here that might be of use to you as well. If you're not already, please subscribe to this channel so that you keep up to date with our future videos. And if you know somebody that would benefit from hearing this, please do give it a share with them, because we know so many business owners that are stuck in a state of stress and feeling trapped. And all that leads to over the long term, if nothing changes, is the business closes down. the owner doesn't get paid what they deserve for the business, the clients no longer get that service, and we can no longer create the jobs for people that should be there otherwise. So if you know someone that's stuck, please do share this with them. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next video.